I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to make note that our County Legislator, Lori Tortel, is in the audience. Good evening, Lori. And Trustee, help me. Carrera from the village is in the audience. That's it, right? Did I miss anybody? No? Okay. Should I announce if your wife's in the audience? Oh, okay. We have scheduled a public hearing on the towing law. So I'll ask for a motion to open the public hearing on the towing law amendments.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
So carried. Let me find it now. Is there anyone here that would like to talk or speak on the towing law? It's a local law amending Chapter 186 entitled the Code of Town of Highlands. Personally, I spoke to one of the tow operators in town. I informed him of this public hearing. He had nothing to say. He had no problems with the resolution. Anyone else? I ask for a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Thank you.
Just to clarify, it's closed, the public hearing.
What'd I say?
Adjourn.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. I have the minutes of the town board meeting from July the 26th. Would anyone like to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. Thank you.
Supervisor,
Yes, ma'am.
you can offer public comment on the agenda items.
Okay. No, thank you, thank you. The first thing on our agenda, which I skipped right over quickly, not that I'm intimidated by a crowd, but is there any public comment on my agenda items? Any at all? Anybody would like to speak on the agenda items? Okay. We approved the minutes, communications. I received a letter from DEC, the state speedies permit, state pollutant elimination system permit for renewal for the facility referenced above is approved with the new effective expiration date. So that's an approval, Richie, of the permit for the sewer plant. I don't know if you knew we got that, or if you got one down there.
No, I saw the Fusco email earlier today.
Oh, okay.
Supervisor?
Yes, ma'am.
It's me again, aye.
Say that?
This gentleman, Mr. Benjamin Seiden from Levert, would like to know if he can put it up on the schedule.
Oh, we can do that, sir. Would you come up to the microphone? Sure.
Good evening, everyone, and everyone behind me. Hello again. I feel bad for you if you want to move to your right just a bit, or else you're staring, at my butt. Thank you. I mean, you're just not comfortable for you. My name is Ben Seiden. I'm the Vice President of LaBerge Group. Kathy Rooney's our local government specialist. And we just want to say hello. Supervisor asked us to drop in and introduce ourselves to you and the town board. Many of the people behind me just sat through an hour presentation that will be available, I guess, on YouTube coming shortly. As you all know, the village had a petition served on July 2nd. They certified the petition on July 9th, and now they're going through a process of developing an interim dissolution plan between now and the referendum. I don't know if you're aware, the village adopted a date of November 8th as the referendum from 12 to 9 at the senior center. At that time, village residents that are registered to vote will have the opportunity to vote on the referendum that has one question, and that one question directly impacts you all as a board, and that is, shall the village of Highland Falls be dissolved? Now, unfortunately, in the process of Article 17A, you as the board and the residents of the town of Highlands, they don't get a vote or any say in the process. But what we ask is from your side, as the elected officials of the town, your cooperation, those of your department heads, to allow us to understand, what is the potential venue or avenue for provision of services going forward, so the residents know what they're voting for. So what I mean by this is there's nothing in the state law that requires what we're doing. All that's required is that the village certify a petition, call a referendum, and have the vote. But every village except one that I'm aware of in the state has developed some semblance of an interim report so that voters know what they're voting on and what that actually means. But I want to also let you know what the timetable is. Should the village residents vote to dissolve, the village has 180 days to accept a draft plan. Then they have a minimum of 35 days to hold a public hearing, and then another 60 days to ratify and adopt that final plan. Then there's a 45-day waiting period, from which there can potentially be a second petition for another vote. If not, they move forward towards dissolution. Now, NICOM, the Conference of Mayors, they're very famous for saying, only famous in my circles, not very famous, but Wade often says that village dissolution is not actually a village issue. It's really a town issue. It's how will the town, who has no say in the process, provide those services post-dissolution. And because of that, we invite you all to participate throughout this entire process of developing the plan for a number of reasons. One is it gives a little more certainty to how the outcome can be if there is a dissolution. And two is village residents are also your residents. So you're working on the benefit of everyone to figure out what kind of service delivery model should there be. And there's a whole host of questions that people have. Some were said tonight. Probably 90% of the questions have not yet been asked because we haven't gotten to the research and analysis yet. But we're going to be looking at developing a plan that shows how will the town provide or potentially provide water, sewer, police, all the services you provide now, what would happen potentially with staff, long-term assets, long-term liabilities. It all goes into this plan. So this is the first time we're all meeting, saying hello. We have a lot of conversations to be having over the next 60 to 90 days, and I hopefully will have a good time working directly with you all, because this is really a town issue. Jim, I'm not sure if any of you guys know the term consolidation versus dissolution. Those of you that follow that social media thing called Facebook will see hashtag, I call it pound sign, my daughter tells me I'm wrong. So hashtag dissolution, hashtag consolidation. And the first question that came to me last Wednesday was, why are you doing a dissolution and not a consolidation? Well, there's two different provisions in the law of Article 17A. One calls for dissolution, in which is only village residents, and one is consolidation, which is village and town. If the petition went in as consolidation, then both towns would have to have a petition and the village, and both the village and town have a vote, and that plan is to develop a new government jointly together. That wasn't the case. This case is, shall the village dissolve? In which case, in effect, if they dissolve, it's like turning off the lights, leaving the keys on the table, dropping the mic, locking the door, and leaving it. However, our job is to help figure out how to do that so that the citizens are secure in knowledge that there will be police, there will be fire, there will be water when they turn on the faucet, and then when they flush the toilet, it goes away. And there will be a mechanism for them for the asset distribution and paying off liabilities, and there will still be a government at the end of the day providing services. That's, in a nutshell, the 30-second, 10,000-foot view of what an interim plan is. What I can do for you all is email you guys the presentation we gave tonight so you can see a little bit about what we discussed. We did not go into any specifics since we just started about 10 days ago, but we went into the process. What we are going to be having during this process are office hours for the residents. They can Zoom in to us for certain questions. We have a website where they can provide questions, and answers will be provided online at the FAQ. What I want you all to know is that we have no dog in the race, and we are not answering political questions. So if someone challenges me to a political question online, I'm not going to respond. But if it's a question on process, I'm going to respond. If it's a question of where will my services be, if I don't know yet, I won't say yet. I'll let you know that this is where we are. My job and Kathy's job is to provide unbiased information to you, the elected officials of the town, to the village, who you're here right now, to the public, to understand what's happening and what that means for the public. And in our discussion earlier, we stated that the village of Highland Falls has to make a value decision. When they go to that voter booth, or now it's just Scantron, or however you do it in the village, you have to make a value decision. And that value is the level of services and what the value of cost is to me. Am I getting higher or better? Am I getting more effective or less? Am I getting a better model or not? And will it save me money or not? And what does that mean to me? That's their decision. We're going to provide as much information as we can, working hopefully with you all, with the village board, the department heads, and get that information out so the public has information. The worst thing that's ever happened to this process is Facebook. Absolutely the worst. It's a great social media for showing off your kids' pictures, but it's the worst when it comes down to dissolution. So much information and misinformation and disinformation goes there. Our job is to provide unbiased information to everybody. So I hope that gives you a little snapshot as to what we're doing and why we're here, and I'll answer any questions you all may have.
The village has a certain amount of money invested in you, in your company.
They will, yes.
The question I would have is, I understand if this is approved by the voters, then a number of committees are formed to put things together and to come up with a plan. Would that be spearheaded by the village? And I understand that both village and town would be on it, but would that be spearheaded by the town, the village, a responsibility of the village to put these committees together?
So there's two parts to that question. I'll give you the short version and the longer version. The short version is it's the village responsibility by law to create a plan. They're not required to do the process that I lay out with committees. I created that, Kathy and I created that process in South Nyack after 10 years of working on these projects and seeing where there's a failure in the process. The failure in the process of a dissolution plan is when towns say, it's not my problem until you dissolve. So we created a mechanism in a dissolution process, most recently in South Nyack, that created these work groups of village and town departments and had a village liaison and a town liaison. And that was so that there was information flow, there was buy-in, not only from the elected officials, but by the department heads that will be responsible for implementing it. And it worked fantastic. It was the most seamless dissolution plan we've ever dealt with, because I had everyone working together. And I had the electeds, but more importantly, no offense, the people that are doing this every day in police and in assessors and in bookkeepers and the planning and the zoning and the inspectors. So it's our recommendation that should the vote be in the affirmative to dissolve, that the village create these committees and then work with you all to invite your representatives as well. But there's no requirement. It's just what we recommend as best practice. It started in Pauling. It was very, very effective in Orangetown and South Nyack. So there was transparency, there was cooperation, there was collaboration, and there was a sense of understanding as to how this is truly going to happen going forward. Now, I have had some dissolution plans where towns said, we're not talking to you. In fact, where we're here right now, I'll only answer a question if you come to my town board meeting. And they were not nice enough, like you, to give us the ability to move up on the agenda. You wait 2 hours, and then they answer 3 questions and say, okay, meeting's adjourned. So there are some towns that do that. There are other towns that are, as I said earlier this evening, that participate at a light level during this process so that we have enough information to give to the public, but they don't come in all force until after the vote. So town of Brookhaven had a list of questions 5 pages long. They have 496,000 people and 1,500 employees. That's a lot of questions they all had. that we had to share with the village, and we answered them, and they provided input, but they didn't come down with every department head until after the vote. So there's just somewhere in between is where the sweet spot is and how we all work together. If you don't participate, it's not good for the process because then the public doesn't have a real understanding of what's going to happen. The challenge is that plan that the village, the interim plan, and then if necessary, the final dissolution plan, you're not legally required to follow. So the more you participate in the process, the more the residents have a feeling of security that this is really how this is going to go forward. Because New York State does not allow, in New York State law, a government to bind a future government, so they cannot adopt a plan that you have to follow. The only way that would have happened is if it was not a dissolution petition, but a consolidation petition. Then you're required to work together, and then you're required to jointly create a steering committee and jointly create everything and both adopt. So that's not where we are. We're on dissolution. So we beg for your input. We hope that you guys participate collectively as a board, individually as department heads, and hope that we are able to create an interim report that the public has an opportunity to review so they can provide, and it gives them an understanding as to what will this look like. Or at least, and we always say it's a potential. It's not locked in stone. It's a computer and a screen, not, we're not cast iron, or not cutting it into stone here. But it is a plan that they have the ability to look at and has some information as to what it means to them, so they can make their decisions at the booth. It's what Kathy and I say this is we hope to develop a plan that gives people the opportunity to vote with information rather than their heartstrings or their purse strings. And we don't want it to be Facebook strings, because that's not where real information is coming. We're going to have open houses. We're going to have some Zoom meetings. We're going to come out and give you more information. 2 weeks prior to the vote, there'll be another large public meeting. There's going to be a website. Everything we research will be available, so everybody has that information. Town residents have questions. I'm a lurker. Sorry, sir, but I'm a lurker. I do go to Facebook. I'm of that demographic that does look at it a few times a day. I request to be part of groups so I can see what people's questions are, and I can provide information. But I'm never going to respond on Facebook to any resident that puts it out there. We have a forum. It's our questions and answers, and our comment forum, and that's where I'll be providing answers. Other questions you all may have?
I don't know. You got any?
Yeah, a couple of comments and questions. Ben, thank you for coming, Kathy, too. I happened to be at the village meeting moments ago. Had to leave a little early, so I apologize for that, to come to this meeting. But one thing I'd like to emphasize, and I appreciate what you're saying, is the village residents, we can't lose sight of the fact, village residents are residents of the town of Highlands. Our town is unique in that the village residents are a large percentage of the town's population. And so certainly it goes almost without saying that this town board is very interested and very vested in what is going to be happening, whether or not the dissolution is voted in the affirmative or in the negative. And so, so again, I hear a lot of people talking about town residents, village residents. It's confusing to me because we're all residents of the town. Village residents voted for all of us sitting up here, for example. And so I would just like to clarify that in terms of our language, that this isn't just village residents and town residents and some kind of something going on like you're going to be seeing already on Facebook, which is like the devil. I agree. And so just want to mention that. Also, I would like to offer myself, I haven't talked to the town board about this yet, but I would like to offer myself as a point of contact for the town. I'm a resident of Highland Falls also, so I have a very interest in what's going to be happening. And like all of us, we're going to be learning a lot about this as we all go through this together. I was impressed with your presentation. I was going to ask you if we could get copies of the charts, because I would like to share that with my colleagues here. And again, looking forward to it. I know we're going to be having some more discussions tomorrow.
I'm going to send off, when we get back to the office, actually tomorrow morning, because every Monday our computers go down for maintenance. So tomorrow morning, when we get up, we'll send to both of you the link for the Zoom.
Yep.
Kathy, who's working on the plan, is a former county manager and works with the unions, with the finances, with the budgets, and she's going to be the primary author working on this. You'll get a lot of questions from Kathy. But one of the things you're going to be working on is the tax. You're going to be working on the fiscals of the village and the town. And you mentioned in the earlier meeting today about the shift. So one of the things we're going to be working through this is there's services have to be provided. And we have to look at what you have today in your model for service delivery as a town and what that would mean in the future to provide the same level of services the village is accustomed to today, and what shift that would occur.
Yep.
What staff you would need to do that, and what are those costs.
Because that's something the supervisors talked about, we've talked about in past board meetings.
Correct.
Haven't seen, is a commitment on the part of the town board to provide the same level of service, if not better, regardless of what happens with this vote. And, so is there policing, is there fire, is there water, is there sewer? Yeah, that's going to continue. And so we look forward to your help in helping us figure out what is the best way to go about doing that without a degradation of those services.
And you mentioned fire, and we're not in the interim report unless during this process you're committing to a certain level of service. You have to, by law, provide fire. So the biggest fear the villages have that don't have police is fire. With police, it's police. But normally it's, who's going to control my fire?
Right.
Where are my assets going to go? And we're going to list, unless you tell which way it's going to be, we're going to list the 3 different alternatives that are available. But as we did in Spencer, there will be a fire department. We just don't, one option is the town will contract with the current, not your town, their town. Yeah. One is the contract with the towns next door to them. And one is there'll be a different fire company created altogether. And there's a list of those alternatives. So as we develop this, we'll either have an answer or we'll have the alternatives that the public can weigh as we go through this. And I appreciate your commitment to the process, and we're committed to be unbiased. I know there's public that believe that we're automatically here for one way or another, and that's not the case. I ask if you have any questions, talk to our former clients that have gone through this. They're just most recently in South Nyack, the folks that were pushing dissolution thought that we were the enemy, that we were hired to stop everything. And at the end, they praised the process and they praised the plan, and there wasn't one negative thing at the end. And then somewhere in between, there was a understanding that we do this every day. It wasn't a to be honest, no engineering firm starts this way. It just was an outcrop of both Kathy and my backgrounds in public administration and planning that grew shared services, that grew into this government operations part of the firm. And that's how we ended up doing this for the last decade. So we're here to help the village and the town chart their way or navigate their way through this process. I understand there's going to be other meetings that we're not part of that may be organized. There are good people out there to provide unbiased information from Association of Towns for you guys, NICOM for them. In the end, though, this process, while the village votes, really is a town process. It's how are you going to govern should there no longer be a village government? And notice I said village government, I didn't say village.
Right.
It will be a hamlet in that case, but you're all neighbors. And I said this earlier about the employees. I said this is a very difficult time for the employees, not knowing where their next paycheck will come, how they'll be able to provide their families. So I ask all of you and everyone in the audience what I asked earlier is be cognizant of what you say and what you write, because these are people's livelihoods and lives you're dealing with. At the same time, be careful, to echo what you said, Councilman, you're all one community. You all work together, play together, live together. Be careful of this. Don't let it divide you guys to a point of no return. I've been in these meetings where villages in town, pro-dissolution, anti-dissolution, come to a head. I've been to the places where the police have to pull them apart. I've been to the meetings where there are big buses with words on the outside, dissolve, don't dissolve, vote yes, vote no. 8-foot by 4-foot political signs. Not the little ones you get 2 by 3 for elections. The big 8 by 4. And yes, due to COVID, they're very expensive now. It'll be everywhere. Don't let this issue destroy you all as people or as a community, but be cognizant of what level of service is going to occur, what it's going to look like at the end, and what the results may be. And then everyone can make their own decisions. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not making a vote. My vote doesn't matter. I don't get one. The residents have to make that decision.
Right.
And with your input, their input, you'll have a plan that can be worked with. Do you have a question, sir, or are you just waving?
No. Writing down some of what you're saying.
Oh, okay. Are you the attorney? You have any questions? Call Kathy.
Good outline of the process, thank you.
So just so you are, I said this earlier today, you'll hear this often over the next 90 days. Just so you're aware, the law is flawed in many ways, and you'll hear me say the law is flawed or the flaw in the law. That's not a perfect law. We work within the legislation as it was written. We also work within the Department of State Counsel. Their legal office has provided many legal opinions on these. There may be questions that only somebody in a black robe can answer, and I'll let them know that as well. Someday, these will continue to be challenged. No one's taking up the mantle to change Article 17 yet. Maybe next year. We'll see. But right now, this is what we have to work within.
Would you mind answering one question, gentleman in the back there?
Is this all public, can I make a public comment, or?
Yes, I have no problem.
I'm just curious on what thought has been put in from the town board as far as if this dissolution goes through, particularly with the police department. I've heard that it's going to be still remain as a part-time police department. I don't know what happens to all our full-time officers. What if there's a plan to take them guys in, or take the part-time guys in? And particularly those guys that have 16, 18 years on the job, what would happen with them? And basically, I just want to know, is there a plan, if you guys even thought about anything or actually even talked about what might happen moving forward? Is there any kind of discussion?
Believe me, we've thought about it, we've talked about it, and is there a plan? At this point in time, no, there is not. Until this vote goes through, there's no use for a plan. And I know it's tough on you. You've been with
I understand, but what I'm trying to say is the people that need to vote on it, that need to know something before they pull the lever or mark it on the paper or what their vote is. How do they know even what the plan is or what going forward if it does? The village is dissolved. I mean, we're going to vote on, I mean, not me, I'm in the town. Obviously, we don't have a choice in it. You know, if it happens, I'm a town resident, obviously our taxes will probably go up, you know. So I don't know what support the town board is behind dissolving the village, but more importantly, how do the village residents know how to vote? If we don't even know what the plan is with the police department, with the fire department, with the DPW employees, with any of the employees. They're just kind of going out there and voting blindly and don't know what's going to happen. So,
Can I answer some of that?
Sure.
That's unfair. To put it that out, right? That is what the interim dissolution study is about, right?
Okay,
Let's not get out of control.
yeah, but
I'm asking if we have some kind of plan where the village residents know what
No,
is
no,
going on.
so talk to us up here,
Okay, sorry,
please.
guys.
And I don't have an answer for you at this time,
Okay.
okay? Thank you.
Your name, Frank? All right, okay, good. I was listening. Our job is to come up with what that interim plan would look like with the input, as many inputs as we have. If we have a closer answer as we get closer, we'll put that in the plan. If there are questions and options, we'll put that in the plan as well. So if there isn't a plan that's concrete, we would say option A may look like this, and here's a scenario. Option B could look like this, here's a scenario. Just so you have that, that's just part of the planning process. And what you said earlier is your taxes go up, theirs go down. I'm not trying to be argumentative. There has been an instance only once where the village residents' taxes went up if they dissolved, that we had worked on. In other cases, village residents normally go down, town taxes normally go up. However, you have a CETC tax credit that's meant to level the playing field. That, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not guaranteed. Last year was 80%, and it has to be reappropriated every year. So in our plans, we always show what would happen to tax rates without the grant from the state, what would happen with the grant in the state, so you have eyes open as you make your decisions. All right, but they're routinely, normally, village residents see a slight reduction, and towns see a slight increase. But every stage is different. You already have a number of shared services. We don't yet know what's going to happen with police services. We don't yet know what's going to happen with water and sewer, DPW. There's so many questions that Kathy and I have to work through with everybody before we can give you an answer. But by the time we meet again in end of October, you'll have a bigger outline of what that cost benefit would be and what the level of service would be, so you guys can make your decision. You won't vote, but village residents will make that decision as to what's important to them, cost savings, potential or not, and level of services. So
So you guys will have a plan that you'll propose to the town board?
we're going to we're not proposing it to the town board. We're developing an interim plan on what a potential new government would look like for the village when the village dissolves. And that's with input from the town, should they participate in that level. If not, we'll have questions. Like police services could be a question. If we don't know if it's going to go full-time or part-time, it'll be a question. So if there are questions, we have questions. Let's say that's why it's an interim plan, not a final plan. Now, the final plan has to have all the answers, but even that plan doesn't have to be followed. There's a flaw in the law.
You guys come up with it, they vote on it, and you say a plan, but the town board doesn't necessarily have to follow.
That is correct. I can have the best plan in the world that wins all the awards. The town's not required by law to follow it.
Yeah.
That's just the way the state is.
So could I just make a comment about that then?
Yep.
So again, let's not lose sight of the fact that we're one community and we are wanting to do the right thing for the entire community. So I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know of a law that is a perfect law. I think we can all pick a law, to all due respect to our chief here, that I think we can all pick a law, we're going to find some flaws in it.
Absolutely.
So the bottom line is, and it's what's been said a number of times, and it's been said again tonight, is that we're going to be working together to do what's the right thing for the community. And there is a reason why this law is on the books, and that is efficiency in government. We are all very, very interested in what is going on with our taxes. We are all very, very interested in what's going on with the services that we get for those tax dollars. And part of our job and part of the village board job as your elected officials is to be very cognizant and mindful of that. But again, we are all one community and we are going to do what is the right thing for this community. Whatever the flaws in the laws are, we need to. The flaws are going to eat our lunch if we don't work together. But if we work together, we're going to get through whatever those flaws might be, and we're going to sort of learn this all together. And so again, I really appreciate what I saw tonight. I'm looking forward to working with you on this, and I like the fact that you don't have a stake in the game. You're going to ask the right questions. You're going to develop the data, the facts. You're going to be very transparent about that. If you could, before you leave, just tell everyone again what your website is that people can access. I think MJ may have put that in the paper before, but
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
so people could do that, so that there's visibility into the data that is being looked at, in which the analysis is being done and conclusions are being drawn from.
Sure.
So that's going to be very, very important.
The website is lebergegroup.com. That's LABERGE group.com/Highland Falls. And if you go to the village's website, there'll be a link there as well.
Yeah.
And if you like, you can have a link from your website too. It's up to you all. Just if you have residents that are part of the town that want to see what's happening, they can look at it as well. There isn't an IP address looker-upper that says you're from the town, you can't look. So.
Okay, I want to thank you very much for coming by to our meeting tonight. I think you being here tonight is a perfect example of how we're going to work together to get this thing done, one way or the other.
I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for coming.
And again, I want to introduce Kathy again. Kathy's been working with us the last few years. This is her specialty. So if there are questions you have and I'm not available, Kathy will be available to respond and answer as well.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We can go back to you. Point and see.
We have more people in here than usual. I'd like to ask you, if you have not been vaccinated, to please put a mask on. If you have been vaccinated and would feel more comfortable with a mask, please put it on. Okay, financial reports. If anybody was here just for that gentleman and you want to leave, you certainly can now, but we're going to go on with our regular meeting. Excuse me. We transferred into the paying account $26,759. The big items were CEJJ Incorporated, $31,012 for sanitation for blue cans, that's recycled cans. Mag Pro Services LLC, $2,100 for the installation of the Stryker power load system. Orange and Rockland Utilities, $2,467 for streetlight service and delivery. And TAM Enterprises, $2,592 for sewer sludge hauling. Budget transfers. I'm going to read off 5 of them here, and we'll take them all as one package. Sanitation training to sanitation supplies, $1,500 to purchase additional garbage cans. Recreation clerk to recreation other expenses, $2,500 for, $250 for a new printer. Sanitation equipment to sanitation vehicle maintenance, $4,000. Vehicle repairs were higher than budgeted. Part-time EMTs to full-time EMTs, $40,000 to move the money to a new account for the full-time EMTs. Garbage can sales revenue, sanitation supplies, $3,416. Move revenue from garbage can sales to cover expenses. I'll ask for a motion to approve these budget transfers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. I have a resolution, which is the standard workday and reporting resolution for elected and appointed officials. June Patterson, Town Clerk, her standard workday is 8 hours. Rachel Patterson, Receiver of Taxes, her standard workday would be 8 hours. And Alexandria Bourne, Town Justice, again, 8 hours standard workday. I'll ask for a motion
So
to approve the resolution.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember Perry?
Aye.
Councilmember Laughlin?
Aye.
Supervisor Lipson?
Okay, since I offered the gentleman that just left to go a little out of turn, Mindy, where are you at? Would you like to make your presentation? Richie, would you like to introduce her and what she's going to tell us?
Yes. We're very fortunate to have Mindy Kimball, who is on the Citizens Environmental Advisory Committee and is also the chair of the steering committee for community choice aggregation. We had 4 people to sift through. I take no credit. Mindy set it all up. We had a Zoom meeting last week, and I'll let her tell you our findings and our conclusions from that meeting.
Thank you. The CCA Steering Committee, we had 3 meetings since May. Can you hear me okay, or maybe I should? Is it okay? Okay. 3 meetings. We had May, June, and then this past week we had our August meeting. So just to summarize super quick, there's 4 CCA administrators authorized by New York State. That's all we have to pick from, 4 that are authorized. We checked all of them out. 2 of them don't operate in our area, or one, Westchester, they only do Westchester County. The one named Mega, they're not open to adding new clients right now. So we essentially only had 2 to pick from. One is named Good Energy. The other is Jewel Assets. So we established the priorities from our steering committee for our community, what our steering committee felt was the important things for our community, and we sent those in our June report to the board. Those priorities were to reduce, number 1, reduce electricity costs for the community, reduce costs, then to support 100% renewable electricity if that was possible, to incentivize locally produced electricity, which would in turn, support local jobs and things like that. And then it was community education on conservation, inclusive and equitable access to this program, to include multiple ways to opt in or opt out, not just by mail, not just on the internet, multiple ways to engage with this program. And then the last one was to have a range of options for clean energy programs. So we sent those priorities to the two administrators that we are able to pick from, along with some questions. We sent those in June. We got the answers from them in July. This past meeting, our committee established a rubric to assess these options by. And after we applied the rubric and went through a discussion in our meeting, we have a recommendation to provide to the town board. And that recommendation is that Jewel meets our priorities the most. I will preface that with we understand it's not our decision to make. We're just a steering committee who's, assessed this and giving a recommendation. So we provided our rubric and some documents to you, Supervisor. We provided those same documents to the village mayor as well, and have offered to go speak to them because both, the town and the village have the option to do the CCA. So what are the next steps? What do we have to do? This does not at all commit the town or the village to the CCA. The next step is a standardized process by New York State. The town would make a formal action, a resolution, or I'm not sure what the terminology is, but a formal action to authorize a town administrator to make an agreement with this CCA administrator. That still doesn't commit the town to the CCA. What that does is authorizes the company to go and get the information and to write up a contract offer. And they would provide that offer to the town with the rates. What's the cost going to be? What would we be signing everybody up for? And how much money savings? What would the structure of those rates be? And only when the town would accept and say yes to that contract, that's when the CCA would actually start. Before then, there is no cost to the town. The CCA administrator does that work all for free. There's no upfront cost. There's no commitment. We could just never say yes and nothing would happen. So we could ensure that we are actually saving our community money, and we would know upfront what we're agreeing to. And then it would be a timeline. So what would the process be like? Say that you said yes to a contract and we're going to go with a CCA. It would be 60 days of community education, an education campaign that the CCA administrator would fully do on their own. 60 days of education in the community, showing up at town events, the newspaper, radio, TV, social media, everything. And then after that 60-day education, 30 days of the opt-out period. That's where the individual residents would be able to opt out if they didn't want it. And then after that, the CCA would happen, and nothing changes in how the residents would pay their electric bill. Same bill comes in the mail, whatever they had set up before, it's the same. Nothing changes, just the rate that they get. Orange and Rockland, for us here, Orange and Rockland is still who we would pay for electricity. It's just that Orange and Rockland is now paying this administrator for a different type of electricity. And then the education, community education, and support to those residents continues for the length of the contract period. And then the other thing I think is important to know is what onus or what responsibility does that put on the town? We specifically asked that question, what are we signing up for? Both of the companies that answered our response had the same question. It seems very standardized in New York State. One would be that there would be a community liaison who would be the go-to person for that administrator to deal with the town. And that person would be named, on their website and their contact information. Is it, supervisor, town clerk, somebody local that residents would feel comfortable asking a question or getting in touch with the CCA. The CCA themselves has call centers, so they would operate that as well, but they also want to have a local contact person. The other requirement on the town would be a few hours of legal work to review the contract, which I think would be required anyway before you sign a thing. So they estimate 5 to 10 hours total when the contract is set up. And the last thing would be oversight, that they estimate to be about 2 hours per month of oversight to, watch the administrator, check in on what's going on, make sure everything is good to go. And our Citizens Environmental Advisory Committee is happy to provide that oversight and make it no cost to the town if that is comfortable with the town. So one last thing, and then I'm done. Happy to answer any questions. There is a newer option within CCA that's called community solar. And this is one thing that now Jewel is baking into what they're going to offer us anyway. The other administrator that we looked at also offers this program as well. It's community solar, and it guarantees a cost savings for the customer. It's a customer protection type of a thing set up. It does not require any rooftop solar. It does not require any upfront costs. It's no difference to the consumer themselves. But what it does is that the administrator actually is supporting local community solar projects, like a solar farm on somebody's farm or something like that, external to my own rooftop. And that is a particular price structure that's called community solar. And if we wanted to have that as the default in the contract that they set up, we could, or we could have it as an option where people could pick, I want the default 100% renewable, whatever that is, hydro and stuff like that, or I want the community solar. And we would know those prices. We would have the actual dollar value per kilowatt hour on the contract before anybody said yes to anything. And we don't have to do it if we don't want to.
Okay, it seems like you've got a handle on just about everything with this.
She does.
But what do you need the town board to do for you to move you along to the next step?
Yes, sir. I think the most important thing is to not wait too much longer to get this started, so that we even know what we would be answering. Or
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So I would like review the documents that I email just to make sure there's no red flags in whatever, and then I think after, if you're comfortable with it, it would be making that action to authorize a town administrator to make an agreement.
Sure, I mean, obviously they've done a lot of work, and I doubt the review will take long. The only other thing may just be speaking to the village to see if they're ready to select the same administrator. Not that it's dependent, but you just may have a curiosity factor there. But really, by the next meeting, I'm sure you could approve the administrator.
Do you have all the information she emailed us?
I didn't get it, but I'm sure Richie can forward it or Mindy can forward it.
I'm happy to do that. Yeah. Yep.
But
Either way.
When we had our Zoom meeting, we talked about this a little bit. I said to Mindy, it's probably best to come make the presentation. She's far better at it than I could be. You get 2 weeks to digest it, and we act on it in 2 weeks.
that makes perfect sense.
And make it a done deal.
Okay.
And also in regard to, she talked about, the administrator talking about needing a 5-hour period for review or to, And I said I didn't think the board would have any problem with that falling under Justin's purview, to get us through that part of it.
As long as Justin will accept that.
I'll accept that, and
Okay.
yeah, these thankfully are becoming rather routine agreements because they're
Yeah.
proliferating around the state. So I doubt we'll have a lot of pushback on the contract, but we need to see those rates and make sure we're comfortable.
Yes, yeah. That was one thing that our committee was really impressed with the two administrator companies, is how standardized the process really is. New York State has standardized it so much that it's not a car salesman type setup. It's like, this is what you get, this is how it works. You're either doing it or you're not doing it. Well, we are continued happy to answer any questions or if something new comes up, and we'll make sure that you get those documents.
Just
right?
make sure I don't forget anybody. So we have Olga behind the scenes all the time. I'd like to thank Mindy, Julia Hood, Jane Oswald, Lissa Young for participating in this. We haven't actually been together. We've Zoomed, so I haven't met some of them in person yet, but they all put a lot of effort into it, and I can't thank them enough. And I was looking at my own Orange and Rockland bill when we were talking. My last bill, I think I had 8 cents and change fractional for the first 250 kilowatt hours, then went up into 10. The offer that Jewel was showing was at, I think it's 7, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is going to be a home run. I thought it was ironic. I'm going to brag a little bit. When we talk about the going green thing, I had hiked Mount Beacon that night, and I was zooming from Pete Seeger's driveway, so I felt good about doing that.
Yes, we'll make sure, we would know what those prices are ahead of time. And the other nice thing is they would be locked in. For the length of that contract, there would be no fluctuation. The price of something goes up, our rate is locked in for those 2 to 3 years, whatever the contract is.
Okay, so then between Justin, Richie, and you, we'll be ready for the next meeting.
That would be great. Thank you, sir.
Thank
And
you
yes,
so much.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
recognizing the committee. We didn't do it just me. It was everybody on the committee, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you very much. Board liaison reports. Richie, you want to take that?
Well, as soon as I can find it. Okay. I don't have a lot. Hang on. So the Zoning Board of Appeals meets the third Wednesday of every month. They are going to meet this month on the 18th of August. I believe they had the date right. They have not met in this building for the better part of over a year. That meeting may occur here. I'm not sure yet. Jack is going to let me know. He sent out something basically saying they're planning on meeting here. Things are changing every day. I see people wearing masks in the hall, so they're planning on meeting here in person. Whatever protocols people have to follow to come to that meeting, so be it. They have one thing on their agenda. They'll be setting a public hearing, most likely, for a matter on Mine Road. On the 29th of July, we had something I think I'm going to do more often. I'd like to thank Justin, our building inspector consultant, John O'Rourke, Philip Hannawalt was there, Bob, and the highway superintendent were there to discuss all the things going on with the water tank that's been surveyed. They were going to go back and stake out the pins with the building department, fire inspections, some vacant buildings. All that was discussed, so we're on the same page. I thought it was a very good meeting, and I thank everybody for coming to that. It's hard for me to get weekdays off before the month of November, but in the morning, but I'll try and do it once a month. Down at the sewer plant, the belt press is slated to go online on the 17th of August. Jimmy's going to let me know that. I'll take that day off and I'll be down there like we talked about when they put that into service. That was all I have to say about the sewer plant. And the planning board meets on the third Thursday of the month. They'll be meeting here on the 19th of August, I believe. I don't know what's on their agenda, but they've been meeting here for some time now. You're not meeting remotely anymore, is that correct?
We've been meeting in person for the last several months. Right now, I'm not aware of agenda items,
Okay.
but it's still possible there'd be
Okay.
a...
And I can't praise those boards enough. They've had some tough matters before them in the last couple of years. They're all doing great work. And Ty is normally the community events type guy. I just wanted to say the police night out, I attended down at Brooks's Park. It was wonderful. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, the other Frank who's not here. The state police were down there. The sheriff's department had, was that a bomb squad truck that was down there, something like that?
The Special Operations Group,
Yep.
equivalent of the SWAT team,
The
their equipment.
the highway department.
Kids,
Well, the highway department was down there, the firemen were down there, the ambulance corps was down there, and I think Pat's secretary Tiffany, the dial bus was down there too. I didn't want to leave anybody out, and the chief cooks pretty good hot dogs. So that's my report.
Thank you. Sewer plant, I've gotten a number of complaints on the smell. My answer is hopefully when they get done with the job and they start processing the way they're supposed to, that some of the smell will go away. But it is a sewer plant.
Yeah.
Some people just, the house next door to it. He bought a house next to a sewer plant. I can't do anything about that.
But in regard to that, and we talked about that a little bit, in regard to that, the construction wasn't in a sequence that I had thought it would be. So
Right.
you have these clarifiers that have guts in them. Those were the last things to be done. The drying bed for the sludge was the first thing demolished. So we had, for the better part of a year, to truck out liquid sludge. That is not how the plant's supposed to digest. When they put these new tanks back into business, I'm going to call it something like a baby's digestive system. They don't work until they get bacteria in them. So they put fresh water in, and it takes a while for the food to mass ratio to get right to where it operates. It's an activated sludge, which is a good way. Most people now, like the village, uses rotating biological disc. There aren't many people that can run a plant activated sludge that know what they're doing. They're doing the best they can with the construction, and I think very soon this will all be in memory.
Excellent, good. Rich?
Just that I met with the highway superintendent, and there's a personnel issue that's been turned over to Justin, and that will be worked on. The other issue he brought up was grass cutting in the cemeteries. It's been a very difficult year with all the rain that we've had. The grass has been growing like crazy, and I believe he's going to get some ideas and come back to the board or for next year, some RFPs. The other issue, he believes that there's a chassis on one of the trucks that is showing its age, and that he's going to still continue to do some research on that, what would be the best type of chassis to be utilized, but that would be a decision for next year. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, and good evening, everyone. Regarding the ambulance corps, that I think, and MJ, thank you very much for the coverage in the paper last week. If you saw the news of the Highlands, there was a presentation that our local Rotary Club made to the ambulance corps, $3,000 donation. Help actually pay for, plus a little bit extra, for the stretcher installation into the ambulance. So one of the transfers that we did here, that donation is being taken care of for us by Rotary. So thank you to Rotary. Any of you that may be listening or members of the Rotary Club, thank you on behalf of the town of Highlands for that donation. I have some really good news, and I am cautiously saying this, to be honest with you all. But you know how we've been keeping count of how many calls each month the ambulance corps has been making. Jeff, you want to announce that? So at any rate, we've been running at about 80%. Before this last month. Before this last month, we've been running at about, ambulance corps has been running at about 80% calls answered, which means 20% we've had to get mutual support in. For the month of July, that number shot up to 96%. So there were 51 total calls in the month of July, 49 of which were answered by our local volunteer ambulance. So yes, congratulations to Jeff and team on that. And just really, really good news on that. Of course, now the bar is higher, so it's... That's right, that's right. And, and also one other piece of equipment that the town purchased for the ambulance corps, the remaining piece that is due to come in is that stair chair, and that is supposed to be, unless you've heard differently, that's supposed to be shipped sometime soon, like early August, in the next 2 weeks. So the next 2 weeks. Okay, so that's going to finish up the equipment that we purchased earlier this year for them. So I just wanted to share that information for you. From a West Point liaison perspective, I'll have more information on this, plus it's going to be coming out. But there's going to be a lot of things going on the week after Labor Day. So Labor Day is the 6th of September, Monday the 6th of September. A lot of things on post are going to be happening. I think maybe it's the away game, but on that Saturday is a football game, I think. I don't know if it's home now that I mentioned it. But obviously that's the week of 9/11, the 20th anniversary for that. So there's going to be a lot of activity associated with that around the community. But I mentioned this because of the West Point piece in particular. There are a lot of cadet activities that are going to be taking place that week, which means a lot of cadet parents and visitors are going to be in the community. And we have posted on the village web Facebook page about the visitor center asking businesses to bring material to them, advertisements, menus, et cetera, et cetera. So any of you that are business owners in the community, get information to the visitor center. There's going to be a lot of people in the area Labor Day weekend and the following week. So plenty of time to get prepared for that. I was going to talk a little bit about the village board meeting and my village liaison report, but our friend from the LaBerge group covered a lot of that information that happened this evening. And so there's really no more with that. And I know I sort of inserted myself volunteering to help with that without really talking to all of you, so I apologize, but if you're okay with that, I would be happy to as part of my role of liaison to the village board, to be working with all that and everything too.
Okay.
And that's all I've got about it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Senator Skoufis called me up today, and he would like to buy the ambulance corps a fly car. That works for you. I thought it would. So he's putting in for a grant. As you know, Lori knows, the grants don't come tomorrow, but he understands you need an ambulance also, but the price differential is quite a bit. You're talking $200,000 for an ambulance and about $60,000 for the fly car. So that was good news. He's very quick on the phone too. The last time he called me up, he says, "I got $125,000. Can you use it?" I said, "Yeah, we can use it." That was it, and we got it, and then we put it into the sewer plant. But anyway, he's very, very good to the town of Highlands. Yes, sir.
We're working on 501 city. Christian and Crystal, Yeoman's work. We can get that going. And council is taking a lot of our purposes too.
Good. I know they've been doing a lot of work, haven't they, Justin?
They have. Just to briefly answer Mr. Gathers. Yeah, so there was an issue that came up in the process where at different points, different entities had been formed. And so we just needed to do some research within the Corps to clarify those issues. And so we should, Kristen sent me paperwork over the weekend. I should be able to review that this week and hopefully finally be in a position to submit.
Okay, the other day I was sitting in front of my house at the picnic bench there, and I put some thoughts together, which I distributed to the board, and village/town. What is automatically turned over to the town and what is negotiated? And I have a whole list of things. Real estate, the sewer plant, the village garage, the water plant, village hall and police department, the senior building, vehicles, highway, sewer, police, water plant, highway equipment, police equipment, village hall equipment, village hall itself. It's got third floor storage. It's got the historian in it, besides being the village hall. Personnel, highway, water plant, sewer plant, village hall, police, debts and liabilities, bonds, leases, retirement, medical insurance. A special district will probably have to be created. A special, I guess you call it a debt district?
Yeah, I don't know the technical term for it, but yes, the debt is a primary consideration to consider.
District V1.
What happens to the village parks? What happens to Section 8 housing? What happens to water and sewer billing? And then finally, if we get to that point where, okay, the town's taking it over, the village has got cash left over, what do we do about taking that over and paying outstanding bills? So I don't want anybody to think that we're not concerned. I've said this at our last meeting. It concerns me. If I'm sitting in front of my house thinking about this, there's a lot of stuff I just read off. A lot of stuff, a lot of work to be done, and I think everybody here is willing and able to do that work. And there are some things that are very simple. Facebook, our wonderful Facebook. Someone asked the question, what's going to happen if the dispatchers are dissolved, and who's going to call the seniors up to check on the senior check in the morning? Now, I believe in seniors taking care of seniors. Is that the answer? I don't know. But through one of our organizations, the Highlanders, it would be nice if a couple of seniors got together and got a list together, and they all took care of each other. That's a plan that they have in Montgomery. And I think it's a great idea. Seniors taking care of seniors. Kelly, do you have anything?
Just the email I sent you about the retirement, the sewer.
Yeah, I got that. Justin, do you have anything?
Nothing not on the agenda.
Okay. Radio communications. You've already signed off on that, correct? Justin has reviewed it, and Richie Parry has reviewed it. The only thing Justin, the only thing we're worried about...
No, you finish up. I'm sorry, finish up.
No.
Well, in short, no, the agreement was a pretty standard legal agreement. There were some termination provisions that could trigger a cost to the ambulance corps. Well, depending how a termination for cause played out, there could be a cost. Beyond that, the equipment is being provided. It seems like a good opportunity for the ambulance corps, and it does seem to be what throughout the county emergency services are taking advantage of. So no, I had no issue with it. It's the ambulance corps' agreement. It's not the town board's. That was the only point I was.
I was asked to bring in front of the board to make sure that we was at the end of the term, which is 15 years down the road, that it could have been enforceable, but it was not. Every agency, of course, Orange County, and I spoke to the EMS too, Brian Williams, and everybody's got it, every chief, every captain.
Yep.
They're providing service for us free. The new series, 700 series, everybody's got it.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, if you need a motion to endorse the agreement by the ambulance corps, that's fine. That's your prerogative. I didn't see a need for it, but if he...
No, there's no need for it. Chief, do you have anything?
I just want to publicly thank the town board for their support and their help on our first annual Night Out Against Crime, which was held on August 3rd. We had a great turnout, and everybody who was there enjoyed themselves.
It was very nice. It was very well done, very well put together. And we appreciate the work that you and the department have put into it. Kelly, how are we doing with 5-year plans?
We've done a few.
Okay, I've got one here from the ambulance department,
I have
which
that one.
which is very good, very well put together. I'm sure it didn't take 2 minutes to do. I think it took days and hours to do, but it's very well put together, very ambitious.
It is very ambitious. Very, and I knew that was going to come up.
Okay.
It was President, Vice President, myself, we sat down and just went over everything we foresee coming in the future for us.
Thank you very much for getting it in. And
Thank you.
I haven't done any of mine yet. Sewer's easy. We're gonna pay for 20 years for something that's gonna give us 30 years of life, so that's my plan.
okay, I have not in my hand, but I have a resignation from James Kiernan, who is our sewer plant operator. Thank you. He is retiring as of August the 12th, 2021. That would be his last day. Do I have a motion to accept the retirement?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, I would like to, someone to make a motion for us to rehire Mr. Kiernan, effective August the 16th, according to the salary schedule, and 8 weeks of probation.
Motion.
Second, but just a question.
Yes.
Was it 5 days after his retirement or
He
4
met
days?
with New York State Retirement, and those were the dates that they gave him.
That's the dates they gave you? Okay. I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Thank you.
If you remember back during budget season last year, I kinda knew Jimmy was gonna be retiring.
Yep.
That's why his current salary is $34,999. And let me just say, as this whole town village thing goes on, part-time, having an operator for that price with the license required and whatnot is phenomenal. The guy is worth double that even part-time. So we're getting a phenomenal deal. He's a great guy. There's a lot going on down there and I can't thank him enough.
I think in his job that he's retiring from, he gets about 4 times that.
Yes.
Okay, we interviewed a young lady and a young man for the position of part-time police officer. One of them was Catherine Otero, who is currently a police officer sergeant with the town of Newburgh. I'd like to ask for a motion to hire Catherine Otero.
Motion.
We would hire her.
Pending approval from Orange County. 2 of them are still pending. They'll probably be approved tomorrow.
They- pending approval from Orange County at the salary schedule and with maximum probation. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm going to abstain, Bob.
Oh, yes. That's one abstention, Jim? Got it, okay. Then there was another one, Nicola Vazios. We interviewed him tonight. I'd like to ask for a motion to hire Nicola,
Motion?
Second.
pending Orange County approval. He is approved. See that? I finally got it right. He is approved, and he'll be at the salary schedule and 8 weeks probation. And Nicholas was in
The
a
maximum probation.
Maximum probation.
maximum probation. What did I say, 8 weeks? Yes, I did, but maximum probation. Nicholas was with us before, and he left us to go to work for the district attorney, if I remember right, and he's very happy to be back. These 2 are excellent candidates, excellent. Not saying anything bad about the rest of our part-timers. I like our part-time police department. I like the people that are working in it, and I think they do a very good job. Chief, you and Deputy Chief and the Chief should be very proud of the effort and training and guidance that you give them. We have two more people that next meeting we're going to hire a gentleman by last name is Soprano, and Abbott. They will be going to phase 2, but we need to hire them before they go to phase 2. Now, as
Are
Kelly
we
is-
voting on all 4 at one time? We
Right
didn't
now.
vote on the last 2 yet. We had them first
Voted
and
on the
second.
No, we haven't
first.
voted on
You
them.
voted
yet.
on the first, you didn't vote on the second.
The second one, excuse me.
Yeah, we can't vote on them until they are accepted by Orange County, until they sign a contract with the town. So,
That's the next 2 officers, but
Nick
there was no
Vazios is all
vote
I'm
on.
talking about.
yeah,
We didn't vote on him. We just had a first and a second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And one
I
abstention.
abstain, yeah. I couldn't interview them.
Should anybody be wondering why the gentleman at the end is abstaining, he wasn't with us at the interview, which is the right thing to do. Okay. Oh, yeah. I have a resolution to adopt local law amending Chapter 186 entitled Towing of the Code of the Town of Highlands. Justin, if you could just briefly run through this.
Sure. This is a straightforward resolution of adoption. You made several modest changes, administrative changes, and updates to the towing code in the town of Highlands. Much of that as recommended by your chief and deputy chief to help in the administration of the tow service in town. You reviewed that at the meeting 2 weeks ago. You held the public hearing tonight, and if everybody is ready, it's ready for a vote of approval.
I ask for a motion to move the resolution.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember Perry?
Aye.
Councilmember Moblin?
Aye.
Supervisor Lucy?
Aye.
In the 70s, I think we had like 7 towing companies in town or something like that.
Yeah,
Things have changed
they
drastically.
sure have. They sure have. You got the punch list for the sewer plant?
I did. I didn't look at it real good yet. Jerry sent that out today.
Okay. We're almost getting to the end of this sewer plant. I hope you'll never hear of it again. It's only been about 5 years this has been ongoing. Approximately 5 years, Justin? Yeah, since it started. We've got a punch list for them to go through to get out. Justin, I'm going to need some direction, or at least Kelly will need a direction on what we're going to hold back.
Okay, yeah, retainage, sure, okay. Happy to discuss it with
Okay.
both of you.
All right. I don't have anything more. Yes, we do have something more. Public comment on anything.
Good evening, everybody. Just a couple of quick things. One, I've had a couple of people, and fortunately I was on the board, so I know we do have a town ordinance on noise. If you guys could take a look at that, there seems to have been some noise complaints, especially in the Canterbury Hill area, late at night, mostly on the weekends, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Loud music. I know the police have been called a few times. We're unable to pinpoint the location. So I don't know if it's something that you would entertain taking a look at, maybe making the public more aware of it. Maybe Mary Jane can give us a hand with that. I'd appreciate it. I know that a lot of residents, especially on the cooler nights in the summer, they like to sleep with their windows open and get that nice fresh air in, and they're forced to close them because they can't sleep because of the noise.
The noise ordinance does cover that, so
Yeah.
I would suggest whoever's having the problem call
They
the
did.
police?
They've called the police.
Oh,
They've been
okay.
unable to pinpoint it. Maybe we just need to make the residents more aware of it. I believe it's, 11 PM or on a weekday and
I'd have to look
something
at
like
it.
midnight or 1 AM on a weekend. Maybe we can just publicize that a little more.
Okay.
The second thing is, I've been extremely frustrated with the New York State DOT on their lack of concern for our community. It took an accident for them to repair the storm drain in front of the Fort Montgomery Fire Department. And we've had a old truck and barricades sitting on the Popolopan Bridge on and off and now on for the better part of the last, 5 years? And then there's several spots along 9W where the road has heaved or caved, and there's constantly the ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom of trucks going over and back and forth, especially anything with a trailer. I know that one was taken care of outside of the motel in Fort Montgomery at the corner of Franklin Street. There's another one down a little bit further in front of the car dealership. Then there's another one a little bit further by the school. And then yet another one by the, across from the Bear Mountain Pizza Place. So I'd like to see if the town board would join me in trying to get them down here to fix this. We'll get our senator involved and see if we can get this addressed, because it's a quality of life issue. It's also a safety issue in my opinion. So I'd like to ask if you would join me in that endeavor.
Sure.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
No, if you want to talk on that, because I've got two more.
No,
quick-
go ahead, finish up.
One thing that you didn't mention when you were talking about, like, your list of things that were going through your head in regards to dissolving, if the village is to dissolve, was the fire departments. Add that, please, to your list. And I'm very pleased to know that you're going to work with the Labarge Group, because the more information and the correct information that the voters have, the better it is. One of the things in the presentation tonight was a memorandum of understanding that can be arranged between the municipalities so that the people, and that would be after the vote, obviously, but it's something that you can get a jump on and look into without actually signing, because obviously you can't. So that's something that I'd like you to look into and consider. I am very concerned about, the employees and the differences with civil service titles. I do have some feelers out there asking some questions of civil service attorneys and the civil service board itself on how that happens. I've been pointed to South Nyack's issues, and I've been researching that, but it's something that we all need to look into, and it's going to take more than one person or one group. And in regards to the persons and the groups, no matter what happens, we are all still one community. We all still live within a very small area. Whether you agree or disagree, especially on social media, and God knows I hate social media for this alone, please be respectful, be decent. These are somebody's mother, brother, sister, father. They could be yours, they could be mine, they could be nobody's. But still, it's the human decency is needed above all in this situation. And I'm going to ask everybody out there to please heed the decencies. Do not go below the belt. It's not necessary. And it only makes you look foolish and your position look weak. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Richie, did you have something on the DOT part?
Yeah, the Popolopan Bridge, back in March, I forget my contact's name, said that was going to be started in April and would have been done by June. If you drive by it, you see there's no action.
They've
So
missed
that
a
person, I'd have to look at my email, so I'll call on that subject, because I don't know why there's no action being taken on
I
it.
had the same issue. One of the things I was told was that there was issues because of COVID. I haven't seen a slowdown in construction due to COVID in several months. So I
Correct. The contractor that has that attenuator truck down there had a machine down at the parking lot by the sewer plant prepared to go up Move Jersey Barrier and start working. Echo Contracting. I've worked for them before. And that machine sat there until about, I don't know, mid-April, then they took it away. I'm not sure why there's been...
Do another job. Would be
Well, it was supposed to be for that job. I actually talked to the foreman when he was there unloading it. So I haven't followed up on it, but I will. And the other things, I mean, I do this for a living, and on Route 84, any road that's concrete from 50 years ago, they have differential settling. You can't pave over them and expect it to last very long. So on Route 84, they spent some money. Every single joint longitudinally and axially, they'll ground it out down to the dirt, put it back, and then pave over the top with overlapping seams. It costs a lot of money, but it solves it once and for all. Storm King Mountain, they paved it a few years ago, and there's one spot where water was coming out of the ground. They sent, I think, right after that happened, they sent Sakon up there, an emergency contract, to do just what I'm talking about, to get the water under control. So they can pave over 9W all they want. It will not last for very long with the heavy traffic going through there. I'm talking about heavy trucks going through there.
Well, just south of and they were looking at it, because I saw the DOT people there looking at it, just south of where the grate broke in front of the fire department, there's another storm drain where the actual, you've seen it across from Bear Mountain Pizza, the sidewalk is actually concave down, the road is concave down. People swerve to avoid it, and then shortly after that, they've got to do a single lane merge. It's dangerous.
That bump's been there since 1984 when John Arboreal redid the road, so I know what you're talking about.
It's gotten way worse since 1984, I know that. But, I
Getting
mean,
back to the bridge and the stuff parked on there, what have you, I got an email from DOT that they're anticipating in November.
Wow.
November, Richie, you're into this business, isn't November like technically the end of the road construction season?
It is if you want to work with concrete, because then you have to pay to heat it if you're going to do anything, so yes.
And I understand that the problem is with mooring pins again for the bridge and the vibration load.
Yes. I actually went down underneath it and took some photographs. I think I emailed them to the board a long time ago, where they welded a temporary bracket in and whatnot, so.
It gets kind of mixed up there.
And they have 200,000 pounds of Jersey barrier to prevent it from vibrating.
From bouncing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And they're gonna leave this like this? I think that's atrocious.
It's been like a year and a half now, hasn't it? It's
Yeah.
been quite a
And
while.
they also
And it
did
happened on the other end of the bridge 5 years ago. They did the same thing.
And they knew then that there was issues with the moorings, but they just wait until
Correct.
it gets to this point. And I think that's very disrespectful to the commuters and disrespectful to our community. That's our Main Street.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Bob, I'd just like to say, on the police night out, I knew I forgot someone. Olga was down there with the Environmental Advisory Committee, so sorry for forgetting that. And as this whole thing goes on, because it's less than 3 months until the village vote for dissolution happens, I will not participate in any freak shows, but I've been a fire commissioner. I've been on the school board for 10 years. I've been on the planning board as a chairman, the zoning board of appeals as a chairman, and here. Richie's a former fireman, a former village board member. You've been doing this for a long time. Ask questions in a nice, rational manner. And I think there's things that maybe the man with the study might know more in some ways, but in other ways, maybe not. The Fort Montgomery Fire Department, I was a commissioner down there for 5 years. We're not in the fire business. All we do is levy their taxes for them. They're a great organization. They should probably be engaged, because I don't plan on building a firehouse or buying fire trucks. That would be their deal down there. Just little things like that, and they can be rationally spoken about with people who know. And I'd be happy to contribute to that conversation if it's not a freak show.
Anybody else have any public comment?
Good evening, Bob, members of the board. Haven't been here in a while. Just glad to hear, like Lori said, with your laundry list tonight, because there's a lot. There is a lot, that's for sure. I was at both meetings, sitting in the back here. Again, like Mr. Sullivan said, the gentleman that was giving that presentation had a lot of good input, but he doesn't have all the input to give us all the answers. At that presentation that he had, the bottom line is, if that vote passes on November 8th, the town board is going to be in charge of what happens, no matter what. So I was glad to hear your laundry list. You guys are thinking about things that, how you could go about things. But it's going to be this board that's going to be in charge of the costs.
It'll be
and
the board
services.
to decide an election a week before the dissolution vote that will be deciding it.
Okay. Well, still, it's
Okay.
the board that'll be up here, truth though, I guess. So, yeah, but it'll be the town board. And I've lived here for 50-some years. Bob, I'm not going to say how many years you're here. But this community is so small, and we've gotten along. We've gotten along together on good issues, bad issues, but we all come out, we're one community. It's not that big of a community. And my opinion would be that there's a flyer going out there that talks about unity. And at that presentation tonight, they talked about districts. And all districts are going to do, in my opinion, is going to separate us even more. Now, I understand what you said about the debt district, and you're absolutely correct. That's a village debt, and that district needs to be created. Absolutely.
I didn't say we're creating a debt district. Bob said that. I said District V1.
No.
Keep me out of trouble here, okay?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. But there's still a debt district, and we all understand that the village debt belongs to the village. But there are other districts that were at the other meeting that they talked about. They did talk about districts. Why don't we just throw everything in the pot and work together as one community? We're not that big. I mean, if you were talking about other towns, say, like Warwick, where they have a lot of different smaller hamlets in there, and they have such a large area, they need their fire districts, you know what I mean? And they have 2 different police departments. They got one in Florida, one in Green Lake. But that's a whole different ballgame there. We're too small for districts. And that's just my opinion, you know what I mean? But like I said, I understand that district, and that has to stay with the village, but let's all come together, because districts, I believe, are going to divide us further. That's all I got tonight, Bob. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, just one other thing that I want to mention, because I did it on my own. The other day I was coming north on 9W, and somebody put a signal, left-hand turn signal on just before Dunkin' Donuts, and I thought to myself, wow, if there's a cop here, they're going to get in trouble. They didn't turn into Dunkin' Donuts. They turned into the Garrison House driveway. Now, that was a legal turn, yet Dunkin' Donuts has got 3 signs up there to say no left-hand turns. So I wrote to the Department of Transportation, and I said, look, something's wrong on our 1-mile strip in our business section. You've got, I think, 22 curb cuts on one side, another 20 on the other side. You can't go up and down the street without having to make a left-hand turn somewhere along the line. It's so wrong to, I'll say, punish the new business that they just put in there, putting all those signs up saying you can't turn in there, meaning that if you're going north, you can't go to Dunkin' Donuts.
They turn around at the cafe and Rockwell Cycles, and they turn around at the car dealership.
Yeah, but still, they're getting around. They shouldn't have to. They absolutely shouldn't.
It's dangerous.
So anyway, I just wanted to mention that I did that. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I think we have one more. Joe, were you? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Nope. I apologize.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.